Okay, let's try this again. This is the universe telling me this is a bad idea and I should heed it. So yeah, this game, I gotta say, like, you know, you see a game and it's like, hey, here's a new EA Star Wars game. And you think, wow, that's like 8 red flags in like 4 words. And you think, nah, fuck that. But what they did with this game, at least in terms of presenting it and introducing it to me personally, because that's what people do, they did everything right. Because first of all, yeah, right, it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad sign. Motivate me to buy an EA Star Wars game. Because first of all, it's not a full $60 release, which means that they're aware of the realities of what this was as a project and weren't going like, new Star Wars game.
For accessibility options.
And yeah. So, this isn't how it opened originally. This isn't what it originally opened to, but the recording got fucked up. Ooh. Customize starfighter. Customize pilot. Can I please not be a human? Oh, wow. Fuck off with that shit. I want a legendary. I don't want a legendary pilot. I just want a non-human. That would have been too hard. Would have been too much work. Well, I was hoping to get to play as a Rhodian. Would have been too much work. Oh well, I guess it doesn't really matter. So they came out and they said it's not a full $60 release, so it's not like, okay, you're being reasonable because this is a smaller, you know, a smaller project, smaller team, more focused design kind of thing. Yeah. Want that helmet on. And it's using what's probably reused assets, most likely, I would assume. Like, I imagine they're just taking assets that were already there with, from Star Wars Battlefront 2 and just reusing them, like, intelligently. Which you should totally do. I mean, that's what I was saying in the, Battlefront 2 video, playthrough that I did. I was like, just take the gameplay from the, like, starfight sections, like the dogfighting missions, and just reuse that. Just make a whole game that's just Star Fox, but with Star Wars, and just use that gameplay wholesale. And they said to me, you know what, we'll do you one better. How about, instead, we make a new X-Wing / TIE Fighter game? And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, why not? Yeah, let's do that. Sure. Go ahead and make a TIE Fighter / X-Wing inspired game, flight sim game, old school flight sim style. You do that, EA, and we'll see what happens. And then, you know, usually that would be enough to get me to show up. I mean, I've said it before, I have incredibly low standards when it comes to Star Wars. As long as you got the stars and you got the wars, it's hard to fuck it up. You have to really go out of your way to fuck up Star Wars at that point. For me, I don't have expectations when it comes to Star Wars. You really just gotta meet that bare minimum. And, you know, that's why it's impressive that sometimes they don't manage to do that. But, you know, they came in and they said, hey, motherfucking, what the F is this? They just threw out all my customization? I made my no! You got rid of my pilots! Why would you throw out my customization just because I redid...
It's an honor. Yours, not... I think I'm gonna enjoy that.
There have been
This ought to be fun. I'm game if you are.
They threw out my customization because I restarted the story. How dare they? How dare they? I liked my original thing. My original person. Thankfully, that's the name I went with, so... And who was I? I think I was this guy. Although I didn't necessarily... I don't really like the options that they have for the Imperial one. None of these really strike me as being particularly good. I think this is the one I went with. He looks kind of like that guy. He looks like Bashir a little bit.
They won't know what hit him. I am an unexpected variant.
Easy victories incoming. Nothing but the best.
I really don't like any of these voices.
Inevitable, of course.
And Sab. Case. Sab. What was the name I went with? That's it. There we go. And I went with standard to start off with and regular to start off with. And like when they showed off the game originally, they started out with like the guy, like the main guy, basically being like, "Okay, so we really like TIE Fighter and X-Wing, so we just did that again." And I was like, "Yeah, hey, yeah, do that again." And when they started showing like actual footage from the game, I was like, "You're saying everything right, and I haven't heard anything wrong quite yet." So I'm game. I'm here. I'm here to show up for this.
The survivors continue to spread dissent.
Because, like, they basically said that this story mode is what's essentially just the tutorial, and that the main gameplay loop is what we saw at the beginning with the menu, where it's, like, quick match or whatever. And the main gameplay loop is, like, pseudo-procedurally generated, like, skirmish missions, basically. And it's supposed to be, like, pretty small scale. It's not, like, massive space battle with, like, 100 different players and 100 different starships all dogfighting and whatnot. It's, like, you're in with your wing of 5 ships, and that's kind of it. And I guess if you're playing multiplayer, you're against another squad of 5 ships. I was thinking, like, oh, I'm assuming that there'll be bots, like shitty bots that are worth less points to pad out the other side and your own side, I would assume. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But what they also said was that you can play that content single player. It's not online multiplayer only. That's what I remember them saying. So I guess we'll see. I wanted to do the story mode and then we'll see what happens. But that's what I'm here for. If I can play this game without connecting online, I don't know if it's online only. I'd have to test that. But if I can play this game without ever connecting to a server and waiting for other players to load in, then I'll be happy. That's all I want.
You taught me to ignore propaganda. They're traitors, not refugees, and will be dealt with accordingly.
And because the story is switching back and forth between the Rebellion and the Empire, I'm hoping that means that our character will not defect and join the Rebellion halfway through, like other bad games I've played. So this guy's obviously gonna defect, but hopefully we'll get to kill him. Hopefully we'll get to shoot him down and kill him for defecting. But I don't think our character's gonna defect.
The convoy is out there. You want to scare them off? Let's do this right.
I mean, I'm thirsty for games that let you actually play as the fucking Empire, you know? God, that was such a fucking bummer about Battlefront 2, where it's like, nope, they defect halfway through. Horse shit. I'm gonna play as the Empire as often as it allows me to, frankly.
Affirmative.
Yes. Press the buttons.
All systems up and running.
So I already customized the controls a little bit during my failure,
Lock onto my
my
fighter.
personal fail.
Forward sensor online and tracking. Now, throttle up and deploy out of the hangar.
Yeah, full throttle. Oop, let's slow down. Oh, is there like, is that an indication of if the speed is, if I'm matching the speed? Okay, good, that preserved.
The rest of the fleet is back from Alistair.
Yeah,
We'll have plenty
and
of time to
you can
take
look
out
around the
with
cockpit.
sympathizers. Helix Squadron, we're prepping your Gazanti transport. Stand by.
Copy vigilance. All pilots.
Oh, you can only press it once, okay.
Pass the fleet calibrate.
Yeah, I think that's an indication that you're matching their speed of who you're locked onto, which is really cool, because that's always something that is bothersome for me, is overshooting the target. Too fast. Because if you look at the number, it's not always like, it's not 50% or whatever.
Stay mobile. We don't want any collisions.
Like, look, that's too slow. That's 50%, but it's too slow. But now that I'm at 60, it's like, okay, now you're in the middle.
From inside, you forget how big our Star Destroyers really are.
So, not online multiplayer only. This is actually single player viable.
So close to the hull is no time to get careless.
And X-Wing / TIE Fighter inspired. That's basically all I needed to hear to show up.
It's good to fly old school again.
Yeah, that was such horseshit. That's like, oh, they defect. I hated that. Always hate it. Why can't you just let me play as the Empire? Why you gotta pussy out on me? Yeah, the TIE Fighter is definitely my favorite, like, design for a like a single cockpit starship. Like a dogfighting starship kind of design, you know? It's classic. It's so utilitarian. It's so utilitarian. It's so good. The TIE Fighter and the TIE Interceptor are pretty up there. Because the Interceptor's like, you need the TIE Fighter for the TIE Interceptor to have impact. Because you see the TIE Fighter and you're like, okay, that's the standard. And it looks good. Half speed. Yeah. And then you see the TIE Interceptor, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the one that the badasses fly.
Distance helix.
That's the cool one.
To vaporize.
That's the one that the cool guys fly.
I've known a few daredevils who found that out the hard way.
TIE pilots push the limits. Sometimes the limits push back.
Yeah, because this whole game can be played in VR, so you can just go ahead and look
Systems
around
calibrated, and the fleet is in good shape.
in your cockpit, which is a nice touch, I think.
Vigilance reports our Gozanti transport is ready.
Helix Squadron, head to the Gazanti and dock for hyperspace jump.
All right.
And something that's cool about the way this controls so far
Can engage.
is that you can come to a complete stop. Like, there's not, like, the minimum low speed. You can actually, like, fully stop. Which is really cool, because usually you can't do that.
Helix Squadron are docked and clear for hyperspace.
Speaking of the Battlefront 2, I know that there were probably, if not has already been said, there's probably people who are like, why can't you play it from third person? Why is it cockpit view only? That's a discouragement. And it's like, You heard them say that it's inspired by TIE Fighter and X-Wing, right? Like, that's the point? That it's inspired by those old school flight sim style games? Like, you're dumb. You realize that, right? You gotta have it be cockpit view only. That's the whole point. Is this where the fun begins?
Foxeh Haven. Probably the most isolated trading post in the sector.
It's only a haven for thieves and pirates. If the refugees are hiding here, clearly they're not as innocent as they claim.
You need to, like, take a chill pill, you know? I'm wondering where the hitbox starts and ends for your craft. Because obviously the wingspan is a lot wider than just what we're seeing, but I'm wondering how generous they're willing to be on if you, like, scrape the side of your wing on something if you fly too close to it, but from your cockpit it looks like you have more room.
Blockade is forming up. Our rear guard is secure at least.
Okay, tutorial, calm down. We're just doing a button check.
There's a lot of cargo traffic today.
Then our convoy might be hiding among them.
Agreed. All cargo vessels. This is Captain Lyndon James of the Galactic Empire. Prepare for immediate inspection. And this is Foxeh Haven Station Master. Kindly avoid harassing my customers. If they cooperate, they'll be fine. Pilot, proceed.
Pilot.
Check your forward sensor. It will identify potential targets.
That's cool. I want to try flying this with no HUD and just using the instruments that are in-game. That sounds like it would be a lot of fun. I just want to learn how to actually play the game first. Yeah, see, I'm imagining that icon would not be on if you're playing instruments only.
Inspecting that ship.
Pilot.
We have always been loyal to the
I always like this, method. Like, that was really, like, one of the things that the original TIE Fighter kind of was a bit deficient about.
No sign it's from Alderaan. Keep looking.
Is it started out with you, like, at the bottom rank, basically, and originally you start out dealing with, like, the rebellion and fighting against X-Wings and whatnot, but very quickly the story mode deviates and starts dealing with like, Imperial traitors.
No refugees aboard. Carry on.
And
So you're not impounding my ship?
and you end up, you know,
There. A ship's trying to flee.
getting in dogfights with TIE fighters and shit, and other Empire ships, as per usual. And it's like, oh, come on, I'm playing as the Empire, I want to be a bad guy. I want to fight the rebellion.
Fire a small volley, just enough to damage them. Then see if they're hiding the refugees.
Alright. Scan us then. Just stop shooting. No refugees here, sir. Just smuggled weapons and a cargo of spice.
Let the fleet handle those smugglers.
Nope, no, Jesus. Yeah, I was foolish. Oh, god damn it. That's what I'm doing. Gosh, chill out.
My customers are legitimate.
You can't back up, which is fair.
Captain, the station's defenses just activated.
Helix Squadron, destroy those turrets. We can't search under fire. Out here, no one shoots unless they're prepared for return fire. Even the Empire should know that.
Yeah, that was one of the more disappointing things. Cool. About the original TIE Fighter is, yeah, like, you're playing as the Empire, but you pretty much just end up fighting against other Imperial ships, like other TIE Fighters. You don't really get that experience of actually fighting against the Rebellion so much. I mean, the game ends with you taking part in the battle for Alderaan. Not Alderaan, the battle over Endor.
Capability is dropping. Keep going.
Which is awesome. Which was awesome. But for most of the game, it was a little eh. It was a little eh in that regard. Where you don't really get the full experience of fighting the Rebellion quite so much after, like, the first handful of missions. So with this, I'm gonna get the actual proper experience of being an Imperial pilot fighting against the Rebel scum. Not gonna pussy out and not let me shoot down some fucking X-Wings.
That should do. Good shooting, pilot.
I think it could have been a lot better, personally.
You will never recover from this.
Captain James, I think I found where the refugees are hiding. On our way. Pilot, with me.
We've got enemy activity.
Ooh, here we go.
Pilot's down. We have rebel X-Wings on sensors.
Here we go.
Good. Drive these Imperials off my station.
Yeah, fucker.
Boy, defend yourselves if necessary. I'll look for the refugees.
Now it's on.
I'm hit.
Whoop. Come on. Come on, fucker. Some starfighters have regenerating shield. Whoa, Jesus! Come on, don't interrupt my gameplay. There we go. Next.
Rebel down.
Need to work on adjusting the speed a little better.
Lasers need to recharge. Target destroyed.
Still getting used to the controls. Ooh, thought you could try some shit with me. But you forgot. Shodan never forget.
I've picked up a tail.
Rebel down. That's half the rebel scum destroyed. Enemy is down.
I'm actually concentrating on learning how to play the video game.
Defeated.
Target destroyed. Taking enemy fire.
Ah, it's sad for you. Oh, it's probably because I don't have enough power to my engines. That's why it feels weird. Whoop. Whoopsie doodle. Where are you?